Hello BookTube. Today I'm going to be doing a try a chapter or less tag. This tag is inspired by two similar versions of the try a chapter tag. A tag in which participants typically read the first chapter of a novel. I've never seen one where somebody did it for nonfiction. So read the first chapter, and based on the strength of that first chapter, read the winning book. There are other variations, try a story tag for short story collections, but the version of the try chapter tag I'm doing is inspired by the try chapter tag that Olive of a Book Olive did a few months ago, in which she cleared her fiction shelves, decided which one she wanted to keep, which one she was going to discard, and those books that she wasn't entirely sure about. She took those books that she wasn't sure about, read the first chapters of them in a try chapter tag, and then decided whether she was going to keep or discard those books. Doors of All the Books also has a similar try chapter tag that she did just this past Saturday, I think. And I'll leave a link to both Olive and Doris's channels in the show notes down below. So basically, my version of the try a chapter or less tag is me looking at 10 books to decide whether or not I want to keep them in my collection or discard them. The 10 books are science fiction and fantasy, mostly, well, they're all fantasy. And I'm looking to see whether or not I want to keep them or get rid of them. I read the first chapter of these 10 books on Friday and Saturday. 4 of them I got to on Friday. 6 of them I got to on Saturday. So I will basically be dividing these 10 books by when I've read them. So for the books I read the first chapter of on Friday, I had a go at The Mirror Prince by Violette Malan. This is a portal fantasy where all of Earth's myths, legends, folklore, fairy tales come from a parallel universe or reality, which occasionally bleeds over into our reality. One of these bleed overs is a character called the Exile, who in his home world was a very prominent hero. He was exiled at some point by a being called the Basilisk Prince, who, from what I read, is the Dark Lord of that world. And after however many years, decades, centuries of being an exile, the exile's exile is nearly over, and the Basilisk Prince wants him for something. So that was The Mirror Prince by Violette Malan. I also looked at The Adamantine Palace, Book 1, of The Memory of Flames by Stephen Deas. This is the first book in an epic fantasy series that features dragon knights and political assassinations. The Sorcerer's Son, or Sorcerer's Son by Phyllis Eisenstein. This is an epic fantasy about a young man who's the son of a sorceress who goes in search of his father. And the fourth book I looked at on Friday was Snakewood by Adrian Selby. This is, I think it's standalone fantasy about a mercenary company. So, of these 4 books, my rankings are, so from first to fourth, the one I liked the most was Sorcerer's Son by Phyllis Eisenstein. The writing was good. It was affecting. I rather enjoyed what I read. My only issue is that it's a little too 80s fantasy style. It's kind of this weird sort of romance fairy tale combo that I'm not always a fan of. But I did quite like what I read of Sorcerer's Son. The second place is The Mirror Prince by Violette Malan. I rather liked it, although in a more of an okay way, rather than I actually really liked what I read. I kind of got lost when the point of view character of the first part of chapter 1, that her issue with the exile is that she had some kind of past romantic entanglement with him, and that's why she made a vow to avoid him, even though this exile seems to reincarnate or something. Number 3, and number 4, because it's a tie and I'm not entirely sure which one I disliked the most, is because I really didn't like either one of them. I'll just go with The Adamantine Palace by Deas as number 3. It just, I didn't like the writing. I didn't like the kind of the fractured sort of feel of the plot. It just, no. And Snakewood by Adrian Selby was about as bad. I didn't like the writing. I didn't like the tone, the voice. So anyway, move them all over. So on Saturday, I read the first chapters or less of Silent Hall by N.S. Dolkart. This is the first book in an epic fantasy series called The God Serfs. That's about a group of refugees who throw in with a sorcerer who is feuding with gods. Then I looked at The Heir of Night, book 1 of The Wall of Night by Helen Lowe. This is about kind of sort of a portal fantasy. It's about a group of fantasy aliens coming to a fantasy world and defend a good chunk of it from a rival race of or species of fantasy aliens. Third, I looked at Half Resurrection Blues by Daniel Jose Older. This is the first book in the Bone Street Rumba series. I think it's a urban fantasy trilogy about a character named Carlos de la Cruz, who is a liminal figure. He's both dead and alive, and he works as a sort of fixer for New York's Council of the Dead. And this is one of his adventures. Next, I read In the Company of Ogres by Martinez. This is a humorous fantasy about a mercenary soldier who is incredibly hard to kill in order to avoid having to resurrect, or however his immortality seems to work. He goes into accounting for the mercenary company he works for. And then one day he is promoted to commander of a company of ogres. An Accident of Stars is book 1 of The Manifold World by Meadows. This is another portal fantasy in which I want to say the main characters go into a world that is incredibly patriarchal. And villainously patriarchal at that. And finally, I looked at Breath of Earth. This is the first book in, I want to say it's a trilogy, or it could be a quartet. It's an alternate history fantasy set in 1906 San Francisco, and features an America-Japanese alliance, or a closer political relationship than that, who decide they want to go beat up on China. And there's geomancy involved. So, of these six, the one I like the most is The Heir of Night by Helen Lowe. It was okay, although I didn't necessarily like the opening chapter. It basically features who I'm assuming is the main protagonist as a young girl, or she might just be the main antagonist at that age, who is getting into trouble for, I guess, character development reasons, but it's, yeah. Then I would go with, for number 2, Have Resurrection Blues, which, while I didn't like the character of Carlos, or the tone of the story, it was okay. And then third would be In the Company of Ogres by Martinez. I really don't do humor very well, and yeah, the writing just I don't think really quite worked. So number 4 would be Silent Hall by N.S. Dolkart. I liked what I read up until the point where the point of view character, the first time he talks to a girl, or well, the first time a girl talks to him, which I'm not entirely sure how that would, but anyway, he falls in love with her, and that is one of my pet peeves when it comes to fiction, is I just, yeah, and it just, that kind of moment, it's just like, okay, yeah. Particularly given the fact that it's highly doubtful that anybody else besides the point of view character will matter much after maybe a chapter or two. So, really annoyed me. Number 5 is An Accident of Stars by Meadows. I really did not like the opening of this. It opens with assuming the main character in class, I think she's a high school student, and she's sexually harassed. And I mean, is that really the best way to open a story? And the writing really wasn't very compelling. So, and then finally, for number 6, Breath of Earth by Beth Cato, which I mean, the writing wasn't very good, but what really bugged me was the demonization. While, yeah, I mean, colonialism is and was evil and toxic and exploitative and just a blight on human history, it's still, you don't really, I mean, demonizing real people in historical society. Yeah, so I really do not like this at all. for both An Accident in the Stars and Breath of Earth, I pretty much bailed on them about as fast as I did The Handmaid's Tale, which was like a page and a half. But anyway, so yeah, this was a very, very rough tri-chapter tag, and except for maybe Sorcerer's Son, I think I can comfortably get rid of all of them. So at least some positive came out of this tri-chapter tag, or I guess tri-chapter or less tag. Anyway, so that's pretty much all I've got for today. I will maybe be back tomorrow with a tag video, or I might skip tomorrow because there's a package coming in that might take my time, because if I'm filming videos and it comes and causes all sorts of chaos. So I might skip tomorrow, and then Wednesday I will try to do a reaction video or some kind of like meandering discussion video, although I'm really terrible at them. So, but I do want to try to do those, because there are quite a few things I do want to react to and meander about. So that's maybe Wednesday or Thursday, and then of course Friday will be weekly reads. So till then, BookTube, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.